Hello, thank you for choosing to watch this video. This is number 15 in the What If Fantasy Model Kit box art series. Aurora had a terrific series of monster kits, which included Frankenstein, the Wolfman, and the creature from the Black Lagoon. The Rita is the boat enlisted by the scientific team that goes searching the remote backwaters of the Amazon for evidence of the Gill Man. The creature from the Black Lagoon is an absolute classic, and the Gill Man himself is a marvel. To make this kit a little more interesting, I've proposed that it has a photoscope. Now, photoscope was something which Aurora came up with, and I think it was exclusive to them. And basically, it was a photographic transparency that was suspended midway up a tube that was open at both ends. You looked through one end, and light came in through the other, which lit up the slide. I remember having a kit of a submarine, I think it might have been the Nautilus, and you sort of looked down through the hatch at the top, and you could see, I think, a torpedo room or something, just a photograph of a torpedo room. And they did it with some tanks that had, I think, an explosion when you look down inside, or some artillery shells. Anyway, there's a part in the film where the scientists capture the creature and they put him in the hold of the Rita. So this would have a photoscope where you look down into the hold of the ship and there'd be a picture of the creature bobbing his head out of the surface like he does in the film. Total gimmick, total bit of fun, very much of the time. I have not been able to find out the origin of this boat. I believe it's a real boat. There's too many details on it that I don't think you would have got if it was just a prop. There's some speculation that it was a Florida shrimping boat because some of the movie was shot in Florida, but only the underwater scenes were shot in Florida. All the shots of the boat, I think, were on the Universal backlot or somewhere in California, which sort of opens it up. This boat could be anything. It may even show up in other movies. I don't know, but I'd love to know. If anyone has information, please drop me a line or put it in the comments. Incidentally, the underwater scenes filmed in Florida look fantastic in 3D. I was fortunate enough to see a screening of the film, and the water is so clear that the people swimming around really jump out from the screen in 3D. It's really cool. Staying with sort of jungles and backwaters, The African Queen is a fantastic adventure film. It stars Humphrey Bogart, Katharine Hepburn, and the boat, The African Queen. This is a real boat that was built in 1912 and shipped to Africa, where it served as a riverboat used for shipping supplies and missionaries and all that stuff. Exactly what it does in the film. The film basically follows the story of Katharine Hepburn's character, who has to enlist a reluctant Humphrey Bogart to get her sort of up the river to safety, and all sorts of exploits and adventures ensue. And it's just great. It's a very character heavy, but very action oriented, just a good solid adventure yarn, if you like. It's not a huge boat. It's about 28 feet long, I think. So a good sized kit and great for weathering, extra detailing probably. You could do so many dioramas with it. Just be cool. Just be a good one on the shelf. Sticking with sort of sweaty adventure action films, there's a film from the 1950s called The Wages of Fear. This film follows four desperate men who take on this dangerous job of driving basically unprotected nitroglycerin across 300 miles of rough South American landscape. I mean, the whole film is really nerve-wracking and tense and exciting, and just it's a must-see. It's really great. Matchbox did an excellent series of 1/76th scale military vehicles, and this seems like it would be a really great kit. You'd have both of the trucks and a diorama base of the rickety sort of mountainside platform and have to turn around. The two trucks are sort of World War II era. The Dodge T110 is the smaller of the two, and then there's, I think it's called a white 6-ton 6x6 that Yves Montand drives. If you've not seen the film, but the premise sounds familiar, that may be because you have seen an episode of the Jerry Anderson TV show Joe 90, where Joe has a mission to drive a convoy of 3 army trucks carrying volatile explosives over a mountain range. The trucks in this episode were designed by Mike Trim, who designed most of the vehicles and aircraft in the series. And these things look great. They've got massive, chunky wheels, and they've just got a really kind of cool, mean, rugged look to them. The models were about 18 inches, 2 feet long. It's great stuff. They look really great on screen. Tamiya evidently did a kit of this vehicle as well as the U-87 from the episode The Race. And Matchbox, the toy branch, not the model kit branch, did a toy series in the 1970s called, I think, Adventure 2000. And that had several different kind of cool futuristic vehicles. And one of them has more than a passing resemblance to the explosive trucks. But I remember as a kid thinking, wow, those trucks look really cool. And I hadn't seen Joe 90 recently enough to connect that they looked the same. But I thought, wow, they sure look kind of funky and cool. This would be a nice kit. You'd get decals for all three of the trucks, number 59, 60, and 61. And I believe there's some minor differences. You might get a couple of alternate parts. I think that sort of stuff you would always see on military vehicles. And it'd be great if you got figures for Joe and the Sergeant and Private Johnson, who are the characters in the episode. Joe 90 has more of a down-to-earth world than its predecessors. Basically, the World Intelligence Network engages Professor Mac McLean and this amazing invention he's created called the Big Rat to record a brain pattern of an individual and then transfer that through the Big Rat into Joe. And this gives Joe the skills and expertise of that person, allowing him to take on a variety of adventures, all the while no one ever suspecting a 9-year-old boy could be a threat. The only real regular futuristic thing in the show outside of the Big Rat was Mac's car, or the jet air car, which is a really eye-catching design. It's capable of driving along the road, and it can convert to flight mode. There's wings that swing out, rudders extend out of the back, the tail wheels fold up, and the front wheels retract into the nose. So there's lots of opportunities on a kit for moving parts or optional parts. Tamiya, again, made a kit of this and was adapted or resold, at least, by Imai. It follows the same approach as the other sort of Anderson kits made at that time, where there's a lot of play features, a lot of gimmicks and missiles that fire out, and they do a valiant job of trying to make the conversion possible. But in order to do that, they have such a clumsy mechanism that it ends up looking nothing like the actual car itself. And there's quite a number of other inaccuracies across the whole thing. There was also a Dinky toy, which they called Joe's car, and that had a spring-loaded mechanism for the wings and rudders to extend. This doesn't get a lot of love, the jet air car, among the sort of Anderson fans, I don't think, but I think it's really cool. And it would have been great to have had a kit in the 32nd scale military green plastic, and it would be just over 11 inches long, so a good size. The jet air car is a Derek Meddings design. Derek Meddings was the visual effects supervisor for the series. But pretty much everything aside from Mac's car was designed by Mike Trim. And Mike Trim had started out on Thunderbirds doing some model making and dirtying down of the models and started sort of designing pod vehicles and aircraft, coming up with some really cool stuff. So come the time of Joe 90, he really sort of designed everything. Sam Louver is a secret agent with WIN, the World Intelligence Network, and he drives around in this saloon car, which was seen regularly in the show. It didn't have any special weaponry or accessories. It wasn't a James Bond car or anything, but a really nice looking car. Tamiya, again, did a kit of this car. I've only ever seen pictures of the box. I've never seen a picture of the built-up kit to know what it looks like. And also Dinky, again, did a die-cast toy. And they did it in chrome and metallic red, rather than this kind of brushed steel, silvery grey that the real car is. Just as an aside, the model also shows up in the feature film Thunderbird 6 and the feature film Doppelganger, which were both in production around the same time as Joe 90. So I think they probably used it for a bit of set dressing just because it is such a cool looking car. It would be great if you got a figure of Sam Louver in there. This picture shows the car sort of speeding along a country lane, and this has Sam and Professor McLean and Joe in the back seat. Joe's missions often included new and interesting aircraft or ground vehicles. The A-14 is one of the most memorable guest vehicles seen in the episode Business Holiday, and Joe has to drive it cross-country to take out this military base that's been taken over by a foreign power. They send out tanks and missiles and everything. Half the episode, I think, is the A-14 just barreling across the countryside and through desert and jumping over canyons and splashing through, swampy areas. Just really fantastic. 10 out of 10 for the visual effects team on that one. Again, as an aside, the basis for this was a toy called the Tiger Joe tank, and the model makers would use that quite a bit as a starting point for some of these vehicles. This model would be about a foot in length. The classic armored green plastic. This is an armoured hovercraft. It never really gets named. It's not heavily featured, but it shows up in quite a few episodes. And it's basically a sort of like a hovercraft tank-looking thing. It seems to have a big turret on the back. And in the episode with the A-14, they come and sort of take pot shots at Joe. It's just a really cool looking piece of machinery. 30-second scale. With this artwork in particular, I wanted to sort of capture the same sort of energy that's present in Airfix kit boxes of the Churchill tank and the Sherman and the World War I tank. So I wanted to kind of have it be able to sit side by side with those on the shelf in my imaginary world. There are also lots of aircraft in Joe 90, and again, another one of the more memorable ones, I think, is the F-116 from the Experimental Flight Division. It's a really big plane. I think it's I worked it out, it's about 160 feet long. So on 144 scale, it would be 13.5 inches. Good sized kit. It would be great if it came in orange plastic. I remember having the Airfix 747 Braniff Airlines, and that was just bright orange plastic in the box. This is a great looking plane, not terribly practical, but just another terrific Mike Trim aircraft design. This is a small airliner sort of passenger jet that's featured in the episode Splashdown. I just love this plane. The swept back wings and the swept forward tail. It's just sort of elegant, but it's got that big kind of like belly underneath it. I just love it. Again, another Mike Trim design, like many of the models made for the series. I think this later shows up in the Secret Service, or maybe it's just stock footage from this episode. I mean, it's small for an airliner, big for a passenger jet. I think it's about 120 feet long. So on 144 scale, it would be a foot long kit, which should be a decent enough size. The swirly silver plastic or white plastic, like a lot of the other airliners, would be the way to go. Another impressive vehicle seen in only one episode is the giant hovercraft, the SS Friendship. Hovercraft were really popular in the 1960s, and the giant SRN-4s came into service in 1968, which is when Joe 90 was being made, and clearly an inspiration for this particular vehicle. Airfix did a fantastic kit of the SRN-4, and I have referenced that box artwork for this artwork here so that it sort of really mimics the real world hovercraft and then the sort of Joe 90 hoverliner kit that I've imagined here. If you look in the car park, there's a very rough rendition of Sam's car, if you can pick that out. This thing's really big. They don't say how big, and you don't see it compared to too much in the show. This would be about a 15-inch long model, which would be a nice size. Big, pretty chunky, but a good-looking kit. And again, another tremendous Mike Trim design. Just a little more about Mike Trim. So he started out on Thunderbirds, and then in the later series, he designed a lot of stuff for Captain Scarlet and then for UFO. But as I mentioned, really had a strong hand in Joe 90. Outside of the Anderson Productions, he provided designs and artwork for Jeff Wayne War of the Worlds LP, all the designs for the Martian machinery, and did all the artwork. So this is a simple mock-up of an Airfix kit of the Martian fighting machine from that album, from that Mike Trim design. And I didn't do any new artwork because you would obviously, if you were going to do a kit of it, just use the fantastic image from the album cover. And then also, I don't know to what extent, but I know he did some Airfix kits. He did a moon landing, Man on the Moon, and also Saturn V. There's an excellent book called The Future Was Fab, which celebrates the art of Mike Trim. This is as good a place as any just to sort of say a big thank you to all the wonderful and inspiring futuristic worlds that he put on the screen. And he celebrates his birthday this month, so happy birthday, Mike Trim. So that about wraps up this video. Thank you for watching. Please click the like icon, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, tell them to subscribe. It all just helps to support and promote the channel within the YouTube machinery and, helps me make more videos. Please take a look at my website. There's a lot more artwork to see there. Please feel free to put any comments below. Thanks again. Bye-bye.